Hello everyone, Johnny Minder here. And today we're starting a new Let's Learn Japanese with a series. And yeah, it's Kaeru no Tame ni鐘は鳴る, the Japanese title. The English title, the official, quote-unquote official English title is The Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls. I think when I mentioned the English title, I simply translated the Japanese one myself when I announced it in previous streams. That's because actually there technically is this official title. Also, I've seen it mentioned in a Miiverse post of all things. The reference it was by Sakurai-san. But yeah, it's actually a game that hasn't come out outside of Japan. So yeah, usually it goes by its Japanese title. And I've never played it myself. I've heard about it, seen parts of it, and also all the things in as seen as in Smash Bros. Games. It's not a coincidence that the Miiverse post was by Sakurai-san that I mentioned. Yeah, so we try it. We see how it goes. I have at the ready a guide in case we need it, but yeah, we'll try without it. Of course, actually, first and foremost, so the first part of this very stream, we check out the box art, and actually it's kanji first and foremost. Yeah, without further ado, let's start. Yeah, here the usual thing about the DK challenge. And by the way, yeah, they added these games. But yeah, the one that interests us today is this one. Doesn't matter, maybe higher. Yeah, as you can see here, the title, Kaeru no Tame ni鐘は鳴る. Okay, by the way, both furigana on the top one, on top as usual is the case, but in the bottom one on bottom because of the limited space. But yeah, we have the kanji to study. Yeah, I opened this first and foremost anyway to have it in the background. But yeah, as usual, we'll actually open Wiktionary. Yeah, here I already have the very first kanji seen. Of course, as usual, we'll have to check out its components, both the present ones, the ones present in the kanji today, and the ones actually that are part of the kanji when it comes to its etymology. But yeah. In order, we actually have to check out the traditional form of this kanji. Yeah, here it is. And we can see already the part on top. Although let's go in order first. Let's check out the bottom part technically. Although... yeah, okay, let's go in that order technically. At the bottom, we have this kanji actually changed, as we see, even in the traditional form, because of it's kind of like compressed, as we see. But yeah, here we have it. Let me open here the stroke order. Yeah, actually, let me mention what it was saying there first. Because yeah, the stroke order changes depending on slightly changes depending on the language. Because traditional Chinese, the Japanese kanji, Korean hancha, and Vietnamese nom, the middle component is written like that, and then the other one, we'll see why. But here I think actually the stroke order, the stroke order is in simplified Chinese, so unfortunately it's not perfect, but I can show what the difference is on the other hand, so it's nice in that sense. But first we start at the top, of course, slanted stroke, left to right slanted as a single stroke, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, this one we have already seen, classic. And here starts the difference. In traditional Chinese and also Japanese, we first write then this middle stroke of this part here in the middle. Then we close it, so this stroke here, and then we write this part, this slanted part here at the bottom. In simplified Chinese, as we can see here, they combine that middle stroke with the one at the bottom. So be careful, it's not exactly as seen here, but that's the difference. Sometimes there are these slight differences depending on the language. Usually Japanese, it has some simplifications, but tends to be more on the traditional side. Simplified Chinese, definitely less so. But so we have this top part here. This slanted stroke then to start the bottom part. Top to bottom with this kind of a hook here. And then the usual rules, slanted top to bottom, slanted top to bottom here. Then we have this, notice the top to bottom, slanted again. And then last but not least, top to bottom, but it goes in the usual other direction. So as usual, we have the typical rules of kanji in general. As a reminder, top to bottom, left to right. And then there are the additional ones like this left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, usually seen for, especially for this square, quote-unquote square or rectangular and so on parts. But as we have seen also for this part on top. Then the usual, then otherwise, another rule tendance that usually when we have these parts here, like here at the bottom, with something in the middle, unless it's a stroke that goes through something, but like in this case, it doesn't go through anything. When there's a stroke in the middle and stuff to the left and to the right, we usually write the one in the middle first, and then we go to the ones on the left, of course, top to bottom, and then the ones to the right, left to top to bottom again. So let's review how to write this kanji. A more complex one, as you have seen, but again, if you follow, as long as you follow the rules we have seen, you should be fine. And by the way, while the traditional way to study kanji is studying literally each single stroke, I don't recommend it at all. I recommend keeping in mind the rules or tendencies, we could say, of how to write kanji in general, and then at most some exceptions, but and when it comes to the kanji themselves, actually to divide them in compound, in their compounds when they have them. But top to bottom slanted, left to right, top to bottom, slanted in this case, as a single stroke. Top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom. Top to bottom for the Japanese one. Left to right to close this part. As usual, the bottom part here that closes usually is at the end. Top to bottom slanted. This is the one now on its own, distinct from this top part in the middle in Japanese. Top to bottom with the hook, the central part mentioned. Top to bottom slanted, top to bottom slanted. Top to bottom slanted, but we are now on the right side, and then top to bottom slanted, but in the other sense. What does this pretty relatively complex kanji represent? It actually is much easier when you see it. So actually, most likely I should have started with the representation. It was straight up a pictograph of an elephant. And then with the evolution, of course, it became more and more abstract. But even in its current form, you can then see, when you keep in mind that it's an elephant, here we have, I show it big again with the stroke order, the trunk, actually, it shows them here, so it's even better technically. It's so smaller, but the trunk, the square with the dot in the stroke in the middle, the head, while the rest, the body, and you can see then why we have those. And by the way, those on the left side nowadays are the legs. So much easier when you keep in mind what it's supposed to represent. Keep in mind again, as we see also for other kanji, we have seen it in part. They usually are reversed, as you can see here, or better, not reversed, on their side. So instead of the usual elephant, we turn it 90 degrees clockwise. And you get this. But with that, we finally have our kanji. Here there's all this part of the etymology that don't interest us. What interests us now are, of course, as usual, the meanings. First and foremost, we'll start with the Chinese ones, which are actually the ones usually used nowadays. There is one of these strictly Japanese ones that's mentioned also here by the plugin, as you can see. But first the Chinese ones. The oldest one, zo, it's the one still used for elephant. Accented, of course, it's zo-u. By the way, incidentally mentioned that nowadays in Chinese it's xiang, as it said up here. Notice again that wanted to mention the at the end, which becomes in Japanese, originally was a nasal most likely influenced by other by Chinese readings where there was actually a u before the but then became nasal because of the following but then systematically the usually it's either nasal u or nasal e, depending on usually the vowel before it. So actually in historical kana it's za u, with originally that was a nasal u, and so that za u then with the evolution of the language became zo, u, actually simply long o, now written as zo, u, but pronounced as long o. The u is only the lengthening of the preceding o nowadays. The accent can stay on that, on the longer vowel, so it has to be, when it's accented, like in our case, on the zo. But yeah, so zo, the easiest, or zo, reminded that there are both variants technically. Elephant. The other reading for the kanji, the other Chinese reading is shou. Shou has the meanings form, shape, figure, appearance, phenomenon, then also. First and foremost, of course, the fundamental meanings would be form or shape and so on. Why this? You can see how an elephant which has such a big figure then becomes, by extension, used for the generic term for form, shape, figure, and so on. So most certainly like that. It's worth mentioning that technically straight up had originally also a meaning image, but nowadays that's there's a kanji derived by this one that uses that meaning, so we'll see it when the time comes for that. So we have these two Chinese readings. Zo, by the way, both technically can be used on their own. Both are accented. Zo, elephant. Shou, form, shape, figure, and so on. Last but not least, we have technically a lot of, a lot. Not even that many, but some strictly Japanese readings, kunyomi. The one that's still used technically, katachi is simply given because, as we have mentioned before, katachi means form, shape, figure. But we use luckily a much easier kanji for that nowadays. Katadoru is the verb that is the term. The reading technically could be used with this kanji, but nowadays it's usually written in kana, but it's worth mentioning. So it was the only one mentioned also by the plugin. Clearly the kata still related to kata, katachi. Katachi is a compound from kata. Doru, most likely also as also shown by that alternative kanji writing, simply the verb toru, to take, and so on. Accented luckily like toru itself, and so the meaning would be to model something on, to be modeled on. It can be both transitive and intransitive. To be made in the shape of, to take the shape of, to imitate. Then by extension also to symbolize, to represent. The other readings I don't think are used. Honestly, we can ignore them. But I wanted to mention at least that. The ones you have really to keep in mind are the Chinese ones, zo and shou. Okay, now that we have seen this, we can go back. And we have the bottom part of the kanji we need to study. Well, actually, as we see, as you can already see technically, it gets, as mentioned, kind of compressed, the kanji we want to study, but originally it was the elephant. But we have the part on top, which is actually the radical of this kanji in its traditional form. And we check it out. We haven't seen it before. At least I don't think so. I have checked it technically before. There we have technically the radical form, which is practically identical. Well, it depends. Sometimes it can change. could add it technically to my list. But yeah, let's focus on the kanji. This one actually used on its own and regular kanji in Japanese. Yeah, here we have. Well, first let's actually mention this time what it is. Yeah, it's another kanji for a hand. This one grabbing from above. Or also from the side in other forms, technically, in older forms, earlier forms. Yeah, we have already seen two of the kanji that I mentioned in the compare there. But yeah, when you see that, you can then, it becomes easier. And yeah, here we have the stroke order. Yeah, we start from the top with a cycle here. Top to bottom slanted. Top to bottom slanted here. Top to bottom slanted. And notice again, as usual, well, apart from this top part here, we go left to right in this case, because technically these connect, and then we go left to right here. So yeah, top to bottom slanted, top to bottom slanted, top to bottom slanted. So yeah, simply then follow this order. From the meaning hand, we get the meaning that's actually used for the kanji itself nowadays. I also seen there in with the Chinese claw of animal, bird, all the other ones, and then by extension also nail. Yeah, so we have our kanji here. Honestly, yeah, the reading used the most is first and foremost the strictly Japanese one, tsume, on its own, unaccented. So yeah, notice that technically another body part unaccented is one. Usually those are either accent on the syllable or on the rasmora, or unaccented. This is one of the unaccented ones. But yeah, first and foremost nowadays, of course, more used for nail, fingernail, toenail, and then of course also claw, talon, technically also hoof, says here. But yeah, from the original meaning claw, then by extension nail, that's the more common one. It's the Chinese reading used technically is saw. But yeah, you'll find it less, but yeah, it's still worth remembering for potentially also compounds. But yeah, with that we have our components. Yeah, it can be found also as these. Notice that yeah, it's practically the same kanji, simply with these become two simple commas. I can show the stroke order here, but yeah, it's straight up. The order is the same. They slightly change how these two strokes. Well, actually, the three strokes at the bottom technically are written, but yeah. Outside of the list, but yeah, worth mentioning technically for that reason. Let me actually add it then, since we have checked it. I'm already adding it to the list before forgetting it. Okay. Yeah, with that, I do think it has... okay, no, actually not. Perfect. But yeah, we can go back to our traditional form of the kanji we want to study, the first kanji we want to study today, because it's on the box art. of course, first we have to check out its components. This is the traditional form. We'll start with this one, even though it is technically present in the lists, but it's included in the name list, the Jinmei-o, it's a Jinmei-o kanji. People, name, usage, kanji, Jinmei-o. Kyuji Tai, it's the older form. But we quickly check the stroke order considering that, but again, now nowadays the simplified form is used, but so we quickly check it just to see it. I noticed that technically we have that for the simplified form we mentioned for the kanji for claw on top. The stroke order is that one. It's worth mentioning, here then, for the rest, we start first with this slanted stroke, and then we have these left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, all as single strokes. And at the bottom, these 4 commas, which we have seen in other kanji, a simplified form used in when used as components, especially at the bottom of kanji for fire. We have actually already seen it in another kanji. Here, no, it's simply because of the simplification. Reminder that, this bottom part here comes from that kanji of elephant that we have studied. But it's simply, it got squished, we could say, because of the kanji at the top. With that, having shown that, we can actually check out the simplified form, and now we can see, here it is. We get a much contraction of the top part with the claw, the hand originally. Practically almost nothing remains, although funny enough we get we have a comma, top to bottom slanted, and a really long one, as we have seen. Wait for the next cycle for the rest, even though that is what I've already mentioned. Top to left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as single strokes, and then the 4 commas, of course, from left to right. We wait another cycle to check it out. Too bad that it's small, but oh well, you can follow what I'm saying, but you should. The comma on top, left slanted, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, all as single strokes. I wait while we're getting closer, and then the 4 commas. And so we get this kanji. And it's literally the simplification of the kanji we've mentioned. Originally we have the hand here mentioned as the other one that we have already studied. But honestly, it doesn't particularly change, as we have seen. The one for claw original was also a hand anyway. And the elephant. So technically a hand holding an elephant. And so we have this kanji, which has some various meanings and readings. The Chinese reading, it's the easiest one. It's I in contemporary Japanese, comes from we because it's actually wei in Chinese, also contemporary Chinese. If you know Chinese, by the way, you might you definitely have heard wei. We'll see why in a second. And then we have several strictly Japanese readings, the ones mentioned here technically by the dictionary, also the plugin. Yeah, as you can see, there are technically several. Let's go in order. First and foremost, the one straight up still used, usually in even in contemporary Japanese. Well, actually, even that one usually kana, but it can show up as shown by this very box art. Tame, accent on the last mora, and yeah, we have already found this term because it's quite important. First and foremost, a noun, which means good, advantage, benefit, sake, purpose, objective, or consequence, result, effect. Why we got to this meaning from that kanji with the hand and the elephant, we actually see that first and foremost the meaning was to perform, we could say to do in a way, yeah, to perform an action. But then we get this extended meaning, good, advantage, and so on. Or better, first and foremost, the sake, purpose. So yeah, performing that with the hand and the elephant for a certain purpose. I think, pretty sure I've seen it mentioned also straight up somewhere when I checked this out again, just in preparation of this, but yeah. Yeah, so we have tame. We have, as you might have guessed, based on what I mentioned, suru. Yeah, technically this is the kanji we could use for the verb suru, to do, a verb we have seen so much in as it's quite important, used to make verbs out of when we have Chinese compounds that are nouns and so on. Usually nowadays written with kana, so yeah. Yeah, as mentioned there, straight up rare. But it's worth keeping in mind that, yeah, technically if we wanted to write it with kanji, we would use this one. We also have a verb, nasu. This one also usually with kana, but maybe could be found slightly more. Regardless, technically, it also means to do. This one more to commit, to carry out, to bring about. So yeah, not exactly the same as suru. And as you have seen, suru, the simplest verb to do. This one, a somewhat more specific form. We'll see it then in action when it shows up in games. Technically, there's a form here with naru, but yeah, no. Which would be to become and so on, but yeah, no. This one, straight up, usually we use a different kanji nowadays. Although it's worth mentioning that, yeah, notice now that we have seen nasu, yeah, most likely they are, nasu and naru are related, both accented. And yeah, straight up start with this na, and then we have a su for the transit, for, well, not exactly that, but yeah, related. But yeah. The ones you should keep in mind are suru, I, the Chinese reading, as that can show up. Tame, that's the most common one for sure, as seen also straight up in this in the box art we are checking out today. And then we have suru technically and nasu. But yeah, less so simply worth mentioning incidentally, but yeah, I and tame are the most important ones. Okay, with that we can... yeah, we have studied the first kanji of on the box art. Yeah, we have more to study. There are 2 more. So let's proceed in order. Next up, we have this. I have to copy it from my file. And yeah, we have on the left a radical we have already checked out. We'll mention it again when we get to it. On the right, we have a kanji we haven't studied yet. So yeah, we have to check it out, but actually this one will require several steps. First and foremost, let's start with the components we can see nowadays, even though they aren't the original ones. On top, we have this kanji. Originally a pictogram. Yeah, a person standing on the ground. Yeah, you can easily see it. Yeah, as it mentions, compare the kanji for big that we have already studied, as that was a person standing without a ground. And when you look at it, then like that, yeah, you can see the similarities, even though then they became different in the final forms. The stroke order is pretty simple. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. Okay, it's set up, not... okay. Yeah, wait the order here, but yeah, we start at the top with a comma. Can be written also as a vertical stroke technique, but yeah, no. When hand written, this is a general rule. They are written as commas, then you see them as straight strokes in fonts, standard fonts. But yeah, comma, left to right, and then top to bottom, left to right, slightly slanted, but yeah, comma, left to right, top to bottom, left to right. Of course, the strokes in the middle, we first go for the left one and then the right one. From the person standing on the ground, yeah, this is the kanji that means to stand up, technically. Yeah, it's the verb tatsu, which we have already seen. To stand up, technically. But also to stand in a position of a person, and several technically other extended meanings. But yeah, first fundamental meaning, to stand, tatsu. We also have the verb tateru, related, clearly. Yeah, we have one in u, the other one in eru. The one in u, to stand up, as you might have guessed, intransitive, or you might have seen it or remember it. Tateru, the transitive, and yeah, intransitive in u, transitive in eru, yeah, class, typical. So yeah, this one means to stand up, as in to put something up, to set up, to erect, and so on, other extended meanings. So same, but in the transitive, and then all the extended meanings. Technically, we have its original Chinese reading would be Ryu, and might be found in some words still at the very least. Nowadays, actually, more often than not, it's actually pronounced. And it's a reading that the Japanese adapted from the Chinese one. It's not strictly found in Chinese. Ritsu. Also found, by the way, then in compounds as Ri and the small tsu, but yeah, then simply because of a contraction, and so the following, the doubling of the following consonant. But yeah. So yeah, nowadays we have tatsu, tateru, strictly Japanese, the two verbs, intransitive and transitive, and usually ritsu. It's still worth mentioning the ryu, technically, as the actual Chinese reading comes from rifu, technically, so actually ripu, it's lip, so lip in with a p at the end, without a vowel. They had Japanese added it. Yeah, nowadays in Chinese li, because the final consonant fell. Ripu, the p in the middle became w, wa, we, u in the case of u simply fell, we, wo, then only one remained because of the further evolution. But yeah, ryu, yeah, then it simply became with the evolution ryu. But yeah, wanted to incidentally mention it, but yeah, keep in mind tatsu, tateru, and as the strictly Japanese readings, and as the Chinese one, fundamentally ritsu. Okay, with that we can go back. Check out this other kanji, part of this composition of this kanji we want to study. This one, yeah, there we have the stroke order, but the one as mentioned there of Hong Kong and Taiwan, so let's ignore it. Yeah, here we have the stroke order. Notice, we'll mention it again in a second. Yeah, we have at the top the kanji for field that we have already studied, and at the bottom the kanji for earth, soil. Notice though the stroke order. Yeah, we start as usual, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, left to right. Left to right, in this case we close it before putting this one in the middle. The kanji on its own, as a reminder, we actually first wrote this one before closing it. We wrote all the contents as usual. In this case, we don't do so, because actually then we have the stroke that goes through the middle and also goes to the bottom, and then left to right, and left to right for the remaining part. So yeah, the stroke order, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, left to right, left to right. The middle stroke that goes through, left to right, of course, all top to bottom in general. And yeah, but as mentioned, it actually straight up is a compound of the field and soil. We have already studied those two kanji. Yeah, as mentioned there, a measure of land and fields, technically. Mile, quote unquote. We'll see in a second. But yeah, here we have our readings in Japanese. First and foremost, we'll actually start with the Chinese ones. The Chinese one, singular, which is Ri. As we see, also found quite useful, this kanji in compounds. Eventually can be used on its own, technically, Ri. And yeah, it's the quote-unquote Japanese league, Ri, so an old Japanese unit of distance, and yeah, almost 4 kilometers, or 2.44 miles, as mentioned there. Then, by extension, a neighborhood in the Japanese history under the Ritsuryo system, but we won't mention it. That's worth mentioning though, because the strictly Japanese reading used for this kanji is sato, unaccented, and yeah, which means village, hamlet, by extension then technically the countryside, also the hometown, even more so with that other kanji, not this one. The fundamental meaning nowadays is simply village, sato, unaccented. So yeah, it was worth mentioning that most likely by extension from those meanings assigned also to the Chinese reading on its own. Here also mentions this Michi no Ri, but yeah, no, that one we'll ignore. So yeah, Ri, Chinese reading, sato. And yeah, with that, those were pretty easy. We can now check what the actual components of this kanji that we want to study, because it's straight up the phonetic part, as we see, of our kanji found on the box art. Weren't these ones? They became these because of because they got contracted. But yeah, we have the in order. Okay, let's say we can start actually with the bottom part in this case, which is a pretty useful kanji. We need an additional part, luckily not studied as a kanji on its own, which is this one. Yeah, this element here originally was a pictogram of a kneeling person from side view. There are other kanji with similar origins as mentioned here, but yeah. So yeah, kneeling person. Also used there, but as the C radical, but we'll see it, but let's ignore it for now. There's a reason why that's the case. Well, what we can quickly check, yeah, the stroke order, yeah. Left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke with this hook, and then top to bottom. But yeah, we needed that part because it was the original component. In the contemporary kanji, it simply became that compound form we have seen for person. So much easier, actually. On top, we have the kanji for eye, which we have already studied. Yeah, so the stroke order is this. Yeah, we straight up write the kanji for eye, and then the component here for person, but yeah, we'll quickly repeat it. Top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, left to right, left to right, left to right to close it. Slanted, and then top to bottom, left to right, and with this kind of final part here as a single stroke. Yeah, we have already seen these two on their own. Quite an important kanji. Yeah, in the original form, we straight up had the eye on top of the kneeling person simply. Cioè, putting the evidence on the eye. And that's because actually it's a verb, which means to see. Yeah, we finally are studying the kanji for miru after seeing it so much in games, because yeah, it's a pretty common verb. Also because of its usage after the te form, but we'll see it again. I wanted to mention first and foremost, though, before checking out the Chinese, the strictly Japanese readings, because there are more than one, technically. The Chinese reading can, that's the one used nowadays, and yeah, usual. You've found in several compounds. We should have seen, for example, well, I'll show it here. I think we have seen it before. hakken, which means discovery, detection, finding. The first kanji, the hatsu, is the one we've already studied for departure, emit, and so on. And then ken. The emit quote unquote plus the seeing, so you can see then why it's discovery and so on. Chinese compound, so unaccented. But as for the strictly Japanese readings of the kanji, we have miru, the verb which means to see, to look at, to watch, other extended meanings. That usage, I mentioned it since you have it. Temiru, after the form of a verb, literally to do the action of the verb in te and see implied the result. So then nowadays usually to try doing the action of the verb in te. Mieru, technically a potential form of miru, not the only one. This one then becomes more in the sense to be seen, to be visible. We have already found this one as well before. The other potential form would be mirareru, which is used in some contexts, but that we'll see when it shows up. That other one usually it's not used, so we'll ignore it. Last but not least, miseru. Notice all luckily accented. Miru accented, mieru accented, miseru accented. Miseru is to show, most likely, most certainly actually, to make something or someone look, and so on. But most likely actually the classical causative form of the verb. But so we have to look, to be visible, to show. So miru, mieru, miseru. The Chinese reading likely only can. And then we have on top this component here. This one is the original version of the kanji, which we will check out in a second. It was a chisel. As mentioned here, there was this used to mark prisoners. Unfortunately, we'll see that it's actually also used in that sense. But first let's check the actual form. This one is straight up not even mentioned for Japanese. Now we have this kanji. By the way, we have this top part here. Technically at the bottom we also have that, which I don't remember if we ever studied. We might check it out then quickly. Let me see. Let me look it up. This one I forgot. Okay, no, we have studied it, luckily. I thought so, but I hadn't checked. In the modern form, you could divide it with the kanji we have studied today for to stand, and then at the bottom the kanji for 10. And luckily it's straight up simply written by writing those two in order from top to bottom. So in general, we have the comma, left to right, slanted technically, or a comma, slanted, left to right for the kanji here on top, the one to stand, and then left to right, top to bottom, the kanji for 10. Originally it was the pictogram of a tool, chisel, or spike. And also used to mark slaves and criminals. There are two variants. We'll ignore that other one for now. The simpler one is the original form of the kanji, and is the one we need. But yeah, nowadays from that meaning of the tool of a chisel, we actually get some extended meanings. First and foremost, spicy, hot in the sense of spicy. By extension, or we could say by extension from the original meaning, technically, bitter, painful, quote-unquote difficult, but that risks being causing confusion. I'd say keep in mind especially painful, figuratively bitter. And yeah, we have these first and foremost, the Chinese reading, since that's the easiest one. Xin, we only have that. And then we have several strictly Japanese readings. Karai, accented, this one, which is the adjective with the meaning spicy, hot. Technically also salty, but as we see in standard Japanese, for salt we technically use a compound with this adjective, but we'll see it when we find it in action. In other dialects, it's straight up used usually on its own. The Kansai dialect, Kansai Ben, the typical one that does that. Then we have Tsurai. Unfortunately, notice that actually we only have the E outside, so if you were to write it in kanji, then you would have to need the context to decide which reading is used. But yeah, usually tsurai unaccented. Be careful. Written usually with kana. So yeah, then we avoid that. But it's still worth mentioning. This is the one that means painful, bitter, heartbreaking, difficult in the sense of emotionally, and so on. And yeah, also Zurai, a voiced version of Tsurai, but we'll see it again. Last but not least, we have this kanoto, accent on the no, even though I suspect that no might be the possessive particle, but ignore it. Keep in mind simply the kanoto, accented on the no, is 8th in rank, because it actually comes from the 8th of sign of the Chinese calendar, the 8th heavenly stem, they're called based on the Chinese term. I'll actually quickly show it. If I can find, no, not from here. But yeah, I incidentally mentioned, yeah, as mentioned also there of the Chinese calendar, yeah, these were used for the days in a 10-day week. And yeah, there were, from that usage in the calendar, then they simply became the ordinal numbers, ways to say ordinal numbers in Chinese. So yeah, this one would be 8th. Lucky not particularly used this one in contemporary Japanese, but the ones for first, second, third, I'd say also fourth sometimes, but especially first, second, and third are actually still used. So we'll see them when we study the kanji. Yeah, so the fundamental readings nowadays are Shin, the Chinese reading, Karai, straight up used with the kanji, Tsurai, not used usually with the kanji, but worth keeping in mind for the meanings of the bitter, painful, the second meaning of the kanji, and technically this 8th with the kanoto, but yeah, that one less so. I think actually, it can also straight up be pronounced with shin also accented. So the Chinese reading, because it comes from Chinese. Okay, let's continue. Now that we have all the components, we can finally check our kanji here. The component of the kanji found on the box art, which originally wasn't stand and the village. It was the chisel and the kneeling person with a huge eye. We see a person, the blinding of someone with this tool. It was something that was that unfortunately they used to do to slaves in ancient China. So quite the cruent origin of this kanji, and it unfortunately doesn't stop there, but it has to be mentioned because it is straight up the origin of the kanji. The extended meaning, which is the meaning actually nowadays used in contemporary Japanese, is child. Most certainly because actually from a servant boy. Then also, by extension, of course, virgin, but and that technically is also used in Japanese nowadays. In certain compounds. But the fundamental meaning nowadays is child, and from that servant boy, servant because of what we mentioned, unfortunately. So sad to say, but it had to be mentioned, the origin, because then you can see why it means child. Here we have the stroke order in Japanese, which is actually slightly different. Actually, the difference compared to the other one shown is because we simply nowadays write the kanji for to stand and then the one for village. But the one for village is in this order, the one we have seen in Japanese. So in general, here I won't repeat myself. Okay, let's do it once. Comma, left to right. Comma or top to bottom slanted. Top to bottom slanted, left to right. We have done the kanji for to stand. And then we have the kanji for village. Top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, left to right, top to bottom that goes through, left to right at the end. So simply, you can see why I don't recommend studying simply the stroke order, because it's boring. And it's not as useful, even if you don't keep the actual origin in mind, even if you were simply to divide it with its contemporary components to stand and village, it would become way easier immediately, even just with that. But as we mentioned, child, juvenile, technically, it's Chinese reading, the one used nowadays is do. Technically, again, an adaptation of the actual Chinese readings, but in this case, we use only that. And then we have, technically we have several several strictly Japanese readings. The one technically most used, I'd say, and also they should be in order because of that, here also in the plugin, warabe. Accent on the first mora. We have also warambe on the ra, warawa. child would technically be. But yeah, it's actually a dated term, so actually it doesn't particularly matter. More than anything, keep in mind the Chinese reading, well, the reading adapted from Chinese, do. Although, yeah, it can be found technically in this. So yeah, warabe, I'd say, is the one more important to keep in mind also for this compound, warabe uta. Well, also in other ones, the other ones, but we'll honestly see them again when the time comes. If we find actually in practice those terms, if you want to keep in mind that one strictly Japanese reading, I'd say start with warabe and then the other ones with time. But yeah, finally, we have all the parts needed to write the kanji we wanted to study because it's found on the box art. So yeah, we simply for this one combine the radical, the kanji we have already studied for metal, gold, then more specifically, but in general metal, and the one we have seen for child. The one for metal is strictly semantic, the one for child is first and foremost phonetic. We mentioned do as the Chinese reading. Actually, it was more to technically. The Chinese reading here then becomes sho. Unfortunately, there can be these slight changes because of the evolution of the Chinese language. But yeah, originally it was tong, and then it got differentiated. But yeah, so we have the Chinese reading, sho technically, honestly not particularly used. The reading used the most is actually, yeah, found technically in some compounds there, but yeah. The reading we need the most is actually the strictly Japanese one, kane. The kane I've already mentioned for the title. Unaccented. And it means bell. This one in particular, a large hanging bell. Worth mentioning the distinction because there's a different word in Japanese, in strictly Japanese. So also the kanji. For small bells, we see it when we study it. Worth mentioning that you might remember that there's another kanji which we have studied with reading kane, and yeah, it's the one for the kanji for metal, by extension then money, kane, nowadays. Also the other meaning for the kanji gold, more specifically instead of metal in general. I'd say most certainly related because you can see why when you consider that those large bells, a typical material for them was metal. So yeah, you can see why then. Okay, last but not least, we have this final kanji to study. Luckily, it's we need a component, but only one. Okay. And yeah, first component. Funny enough, we started with an animal. And we are talking about a game about a different animal, but yeah, we started to studying this kanji with an animal, the elephant. Here we'll see the kanji for, I'll actually show it this time first, a bird. And yeah, so we have these pictures here of the inscriptions. And then by adapting it from that, we get the kanji. And yeah, we have to follow and we check out the order here. We start from the top, of course. We have to finish here, yeah. Slanted, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right, top to bottom. And then these 4 commas again. So yeah, slanted, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single, left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right, top to bottom as a single with also this hook, and these 4 commas. And yeah, again, those aren't actually fire, once more. It's because, of course, of they are parts of the body of the bird. Yeah, in this case, it doesn't show there. We have technically, yeah, the part here on top, notice again, kind of similar. Yeah, we have the beak, show it with bigger here. This is technically the beak. Here we have the head. Kind of like the body with a wing. Yeah, these are more like the claw, funny enough, that we also studied. So yeah, from straight up the image of a bird, we get that by further simplifying the lines, while adapting them to the style usually of kanji. But yeah, so simply the kanji for bird. And yeah, we have, I think we should have seen before the word for bird, thanks to Pokemon also, for example, Pokemon Fire Red, Tori, unaccented, the strictly Japanese reading. Technically, by extension, then also bird meat, but we'll see that there are better terms. Usually simply bird specifically, Tori. The Chinese reading is Cho. Yeah, that's the only one used. So yeah, lucky that. And yeah, by the way, it's one of those words that could be related, could be related to Korean. But that doesn't interest us. It was worth mentioning that some strictly quote-unquote strictly Japanese readings, kunyomi, are potentially related to Korean terms, but yeah. But yeah, with that, we already have it. We can then simply add the kanji for mouth, that we have already studied, pretty easy, as the radical. And again, also as the semantic. Well, this one technically is more of an ideogrammic compound. So both parts are simply semantic. There isn't a part that's clearly phonetic. Yeah, we have mouth, bird, and yeah, so to cry of birds. Yeah, you might remember, yeah, it's the verb naru. Well, actually, no. Naku we should have seen. Naku, unaccented. With another kanji can also straight up mean to cry of humans. Yeah, no. With these kanjis, to cry as in to make sound of an animal. All the other verbs used in English for that. But we also have naru, luckily still unaccented. Not distinguish it from the naru we have mentioned before. Yeah, completely different also in the accent and so also in the sound. Yeah, it's actually a kanji that means to sound, to ring, technically to resound, but those technically we have better other terms for that. So actually I would say to sound, to ring. We also have the verb then narasu. but yeah, pretty easy. Naru, as we mentioned, to sound, to ring, intransitive. Narasu, yeah, luckily still an accent, but unsurprisingly, means to ring is the transitive form. And yeah, again, notice the intransitive in U. The transitive in asu, in this case, and yeah, we have seen it, typical, the one in asu is a classical form of the causative, so yeah, to make ring, and yeah, so simply to ring something, to ring, to sound, and so on. So yeah, the readings, well, actually, first, before moving on, we have the Chinese reading used nowadays is me. For example, a compound is hime. We'll eventually see the other kanji. The first kanji is the one for sad nowadays, kanashi. But yeah, with that plus me, we have a shriek, scream, as a Chinese compound unaccented, like those usually are. Just for an example of compound with me, since we had it right there. But yeah, so the Chinese reading, the one used me, or may if you still pronounced A-E like that, A. In standard Japanese, it's usually now long E, me. And then the strictly Japanese readings, naku, to cry of animals. Naru, to sound, to ring. Narasu, the transitive, to ring something. And yeah, so with that, we have studied all our kanji. Okay. Okay. Drank some water, which I needed after that whole explanation. But yeah, we don't have the time. We went quite, took us a long time. So we'll actually continue here directly, no break this time. Apart from me drinking water. But yeah, we can quickly check the box art now that we have its kanji. First and foremost, though, we have Kaeru written in katakana. Kaeru is the term for frog. Technically has a kanji, and we might find it eventually. But yeah, here, yeah, it can be written using kana alone, like several other terms for animals. And yeah, so actually here it's written like that. In katakana. Yeah, frog. Then we have the possessive particle no. Then we have tame. And yeah, what I didn't mention when explaining the kanji, but we have seen it before, I explain it here. From the meanings good, advantage, sake, purpose, or cause, well, consequence, I think it was more the one we found. When found here in this structure here, also before it a verb, so a verb would be then in attributive position, could, if we have a straight up a clause, more than the verb, a relative clause, strictly speaking, in its structure. So yeah, literally for the sake of doing the action of the verb. In this case, we literally have the possessive particle before it because we have a noun. So yeah, for the sake of here we'll say the frog. After it, the particle ni, not always used, but often is. We could say for, by adapting it, we have seen the particle ni in English can be translated, a fundamental translation for several of its uses is to. And we could keep it in this case technically in order to, or better if we still keep the meanings of the, and so as a noun, for the sake. So yeah, first and foremost is structure tameni, if also with, especially with the verbs before it, a final clause in order to do the action of the verb. Can also have a causal meaning because of the meaning consequence we have seen. Can be found technically by a less so. The most common usage is for the final clause, for final clauses, or like here with a noun before it. Yeah, for literally for the sake of the frog. Then we have kane, as mentioned, bell, topic particle written as ha. Last but not least, our verb naru here. So yeah, sound, ring, intransitive, and then of course, so yeah, literally, the translation is for the sake of the frog, as for the bell, it rings, then adapted in the official, even though not usually found for this game, translation, for the frog, the bell tolls, of course, in reference to the famous novel. But yeah, so here we have checked also the box art after studying its kanji, and so we can finally start it. I had the suspicion we would have the story, and so by the way, we have more kanji. I didn't know we would have several kanji, but I think it might stop there. Honestly, more than taking... I tried to take a video at the end here. Okay. Okay, honestly, to study... to check out these, we should technically first study this kanji, so we might do so the next time. I can quickly mention more or less the story, but we'll check out more in detail. We study the kanji we are missing, and then we'll properly check it out. But yeah, here it mentions that once upon a time there were two countries, as we see actually kingdoms better in this context, really two which were in a really good in a really good relationship. There were two princes as for one, I haven't seen much this term, so I'll check it out already. This one, Zaccari, yeah, an onomatopoeia, classic ones. In re, this one. Okay, yeah, makes sense considering the character. While I haven't played it, I do know some things about this game, so yeah. Chakkari means shrewdly, smartly, calculating, astutely, cunningly. The accent, as usual, is before the read itself for these onomatopoeias. The prince of the custard kingdom, a smart, we could say, than person, but we'll see more in detail when the time comes for the full translation, step by step, after studying the kanji, so next time, I'd say. The other one, it's the prince of the Sablé kingdom. So yeah, if it weren't clear from already the custard before, now with also Sablé, yeah, we have these foods as the names of the kingdoms. And yeah, this one is Awatembo. This one I've seen, but I want to mention a better translation. Yeah, hasty person, a flustered person also technically. From the verb awateru. Yeah, to be flustered, and so on. Yeah, we'll see again more properly when the time comes for the full translation. As for the two of them, from when they were little, no matter what they did, they were rivals. And I noticed, by the way, I wanted to take the video also for this to show, yeah, they're fighting there. And then, yeah, it says, as for this, it's the story of the adventure of those two princes. So yeah, actually the story simply says that so far. Yeah, here we straight up, I got in time also the title. Yeah, we have it in game without the furigana, of course. I want to wait a little here. Yeah, not the music easiest on our ears. Okay, no, simply it loops back to the story, so yeah, no worries. But yeah, again, we'll fully translate it properly, term by term, after studying the kanji. Hopefully, actually, next time, but yeah. Yeah, if I press start again, yeah, we get this. And yeah, we can only choose for now the option Hajime Kara, which yeah, literally from the beginning, yeah, Hajime from Hajimeru, the verb unaccented, ru verb, ichidan verb, we can drop the ru to make the continuative form Hajime, and so also the corresponding noun, so yeah, beginning. Kara is the particle which means from, in this case. Yeah, we'll choose it. Okay. I want actually to check. I don't remember if there is. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, no, straight up doesn't have technically, and yeah, so it isn't. I've always heard it as the Prince of Sablé, because usually it's referred as such because he doesn't have a name. Because the player gives a name to this character. To keep it simple here, I'll add. I'm thinking going for no, okay, but well, we could go for a funny thing. No, okay, that would then cause issues. We'll go for a shortening of Sabure, Sabu. Let's keep it simple, while not keeping straight up identical to avoid confusion. I was thinking of naming him Sabure, but yeah, no, I want to avoid it. Confusion because of that. And yeah, after that we have Oji in the kanji, but yeah, we haven't studied them yet, so we'll check them. It was shown in the story, I'm pretty sure anyway, so don't think I need to take, yeah, it was repeatedly, because yeah, it's Prince. So yeah, we'll call him Sabu. What I didn't mention, it's asking us at the top, yeah, it's asking us, of course, of putting our name in, but yeah, it says, あなたの名前を書き込んでください. First and foremost, あなた, the usual second person singular pronoun, so yeah, you in the singular. Yeah, the fundamental way to technically say you in Japanese, but nowadays, yeah, traditionally polite to someone of course of equal or lower status. Yeah, now often it's considered at the very least distant, if not straight up rude. But yeah, of course, when you don't have when you have to put the most generic you possible, yeah, you use anata as well. And we have seen it straight up several times in games at this point. And we have the possessive particle no, namae, name, a term we have already seen because of such screens in video games. A compound technically from na, which already on its own unaccented already means name, mae, before, and so on. Yeah, with this compound we get a name, more specifically given name, first name. Then we have the object particle o, written as one, pronounced as such in careful speech and also singing. And then we have kakikonde. Kakikomu is a compound verb from kaku, to write, verb and verb, accented on its own. We can change the u into i to make the continuative form, in this case to attach the second verb part of the compound, komu. As we have seen when used as the second verb part of a compound, it has different, several meanings. This one is the easiest one. To put, to go, put into. And yes, so in our case here, komu accented on its own. So kakikomu, luckily still accented. Yeah, it means to fill, by writing, of course, in, to fill out a form. Other extended meanings, but yeah, to fill in. So yeah, you can see with that in, why we have the komu is the part that in. Of course, in Japanese, they don't have the to feel, they simply use the straight up the verb, which means to write. Como, o verb, gun verb. It's in mu. We have to follow the rules to make that a form. Being in mu, it becomes nde again, because we change the u into i, komi, te. The i fell. So only the nasal remained, became simply the moral nasal a generic nasal, which influenced the following te, became voiced. Actually, voiced consonants in classical Japanese were prenasalized, so nde. So you can see why adding a nasal before the te caused this change. And nowadays it's simply straight up written with the moral nasal and then the de. And then last but, well, we have the form of the verb. In this case required because then we had kudasai. Yeah, funny enough also with the kanji, but that one we have already studied. The kanji for bottom and so on. Kudasaru is a verb of giving. To give from a superior to an inferior. Well, kudasaru nowadays is simply then, so the honorific, respectful form of the verb to give. But yeah, literally uses the kanji for bottom, because yeah, from top to bottom, from a superior to an inferior. After that, the form of a verb, verbs of giving have the meaning to do the favor of doing the action of the verb in te. Then kudasaru is a u-verb, gun verb, but as we have seen for like other honorific verbs, there are some of these that are peculiar in the sense that their continuative form is in i. Instead of originally we changed the u into i, so kudasari. But then the r fell, and so yeah, that's why nowadays we only have the i. Continuative form used because it's actually implied, masse. Continuative form required to add the auxiliary verb mas, to do, which marks the polite form of verbs. By changing the u into a of that, we get the imperative form of masse. So yeah, it's technically an imperative form in polite speech, straight up of honorific here, technically. So yeah, here it's please do the favor of doing the action of the verb, or so simply please fill in your name. Yeah, so we put simply sabu, oji. Yeah, here at the bottom we have the syllabary a, u, e, o, kakiku, ke, ko, sashi, su, se, so, the usual order. After those, the small letters a, u, e, o, ya, yu, yo, su, and then the voiced, voiced variants. And also papi, pupe, po, as usual, duck 10, with the duck 10 and the hand duck 10, long vowel mark and dot, most likely variant of the period, even though that usually in Japanese when can be written, like in these games, is a small circle. But yeah, we have got that. I suspect to confirm I have to press start, so we'll do it. And we start here with the two princes fighting, as already mentioned. And we start with, notice that our character is the one on the right, on the ground. Our rival is on the left. And yeah, in the speech bubble we have ha 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 ha. So yeah, a laugh. And who says kono hen de 諦めたらどうだい? And yeah, first we have kono, part of the Kosodo series. Close to both the speaker and the listener. So far from the speaker, close to the listener, far from both. Do the interrogative, because so are usually an accent, do accent on do itself. With the no, we get the demonstrative adjective, so these or these. Here, these simply. There's no distinction of the singular or plural. You have to guess it based on the context, or the following word at most. In this case, though, the following word is hen. Hen means an accent, by the way, actually. Hen, area, vicinity, other meanings, but this is the fundamental one. So literally, this area around here, then we can adapt it. By extension, so this point, this much, this extent. So it's actually what we have. We need here, or we could say technically, this point. Then we have the particle there. Here could technically be still in at. So the location of the locative particle used with most verbs. With verbs of staying, we use ni instead. Here, anyway, let's say figuratively. So yeah, at this point. Then we have the verb akirametara. From akirameru, which means to give up, to abandon, and so on. Not the one, by the way. There's another akirameru, which we have studied Kanji, which means to elucidate, to clarify, to shed light on more, technically more literally based on the Kanji. But yeah, no. That one, unrelated, uses the different Kanji. You know, this one still accented though. To give up, to abandon, as mentioned. Ru verb is some verb. So we can drop the ru to make the conjugative form. To make the ta form, so on its own would be with the ta, the past form of the verb in plain speech. Here though, we have also the ra after it. Tara is one of the forms of the conditional. If when can also have a temporal meaning similar to English if when. This one puts the focus on the action of the verb having happened before the rest of the sentence can happen. And then after that we have do. And yeah, part still of the Kosodo series with the do, the interrogative. With the u, which so becomes simply the long vowel. In what way, and so also simply how. Last but not least, we have this die as the interrogative particle, not the typical one we have seen. The fundamental one is ka, for simple questions. We have ki for yes and no questions, or this dai for questions. So yeah, with interrogative pronouns with the meanings who, what, how in our case. So yeah, that's why we use it. And by the way, yeah, these kai and dai are familiar language, so yeah, perfect for our context here. Better in our case then would be how about. So the translation is how about giving up. Literally, if you gave if you gave up, notice the past, how would it be? Yeah, in the sense actually of how about giving up at this point? And then after it, we have simply Sabu Oji again. So yeah, Sabu Prince, the name of our character. And by the way, since we put only two moras, yeah, we have that space before Oji. And yeah, here we have this. Yeah, something you might not have expected, considering the difference with Pokemon games, which we are currently playing Pokemon Fire Red, but also other games in general, usually that we have played so far. Yeah, we have bubble speech here. The one on top was, as we see, the other prince. And now this one is at the bottom because it's actually our character talking here, who says first and foremost, Nandato. Okay, by the way, I don't remember if I have while the kanji for Oji we have found above, so it isn't an issue. This one we haven't seen, I think, so I took the screenshot for that. But yeah, first and foremost, Nandato. Okay, I didn't expect. There are more kanji that I expected also in game, but still relatively little, so we should be fine. But yeah, first and foremost, yeah, Nan from Nani, interrogative pronoun, which means what? Pretty famous, also because of memes. Here the ni contracted into n because of the following da. Da is technically simply the copula in plain speech, so yeah, what is it? And after it we have to as the particle, with, in this case, in the sense of the quoting particle, so yeah, with, and before it the quotation. But yeah, so this becomes actually an expression, which means, what did you just say to me? What's that? And yeah, I also used straight up, as you have seen here, with an exclamation, with the exclamation mark after it. So I'd say, what are you saying? Then he says, our protagonist, Ima no wa skoshi yudan shita dake da. Yeah, first and foremost, we have the kanji for ima. And yeah, this one, the one accent on the first mora, there's no doubt, because we have the kanji. And yeah, which means now. Also dancing, just now, and so on. Also can be then soon, as in close to now. Then we have technically the possessive particle no. After it, the topic particle wa. So yeah, with this as for literally there's an implied the thing or something along those lines of now. So yeah, in the sense of what has just happened just now. Skoshi, a little, a bit. We have already found it, not with the kanji, so and I don't think we have studied it before, so we'll have to check it out. But yeah, a little, a bit, and so on. Then we have yudan, a Chinese compound, which an accent, like most of those are. And its meanings are negligence, carelessness, it's inattention, unpreparedness. And yeah, can be turned into a verb by adding suru, the verb which means to do, as already mentioned, because of the kanji we studied. So yeah. Here we have suru in the past form, in the ta form. Suru is completely regular, so we have to remember that its continuative form is she, and then we attach simply the ta to it. After it, we have dake, a particle which means only, simply, just. Other meanings, but these are the fundamental ones, and also in our case here. Last but not least, we have the copula da in plain speech. And notice at the end here we can straight up see it. Notice that a small square at the end, that's because, again, the period in Japanese, apart from in certain older games we have seen because of technical limitations, but yeah, when they can, it's written in Japanese as a small circle, and so here becomes a small square because of other technical limitations. But yeah, so he's saying, as for what just happened, as for what happened just now, I simply did, literally, carelessness, inattention, unpreparedness. So yeah, I was simply a little careless, unprepared. Okay, so we can continue. So we can finally see the name. Ricciardo oggi. So yeah, Prince Richard. Ricciardo, Richard. Then we have Sa Moichido Shobuda. First and foremost, we have this Sa. Also with this, instead of the usual big regular sized A, we have a smaller A for stylization. It's an expression which with several meanings technically, but the most common one, I'd say, and like in our case here, come on, come now. We have found it before in other series. Used to urge or encourage others. Then we have mo ichido. We have found it before. First and foremost, mo. In this case, mo, it's in its meaning more, accented, mo on its own, on the mo, so. Ichido, numeral plus counter combination. This one is the one for occurrences. And so the accent is on the do itself, as we have seen. Won't mention that again for now, but Ichido here one time, so once. So with the mo, once more, or again. Literally once more. Then we have Shobu, term we have seen in Pokemon, literally victory or defeat based on the kanji, but then by extension from the match, contest, and so on. Chinese compound, one of those accented on the first more, so the second most common accent for those. It's a noun, so unsurprising. After it we have the copula, da. 2 exclamation marks to show the emphasis. Literally, come on, come now. It's a match. once more, cioè, in the sense, of course, actually, let's do one more match, then, okay, we should be able to check at least this. Yeah, Richard, notice that we have switched on top again now. First and foremost, we have a hu hu hu, which is another kind of laugh in Japanese. And yeah, this one more like technically the dictionary says again ha ha ha, or better already he 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 technically. Yeah, notice the difference with straight up ha 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 we've seen at the start. The comma, yeah, notice that the comma is like we have seen the one in that stroke in the kanji. Yeah, it's also used as the comma in Japanese. And then we have this itomo, a colloquial expression which means sounds good. Literally, we have I, the adjective which means good. To, again, the should be, I'd say, in this case, simply the. Well, technically, okay. It is a particle, tomo, used together on its own, which has the meanings, certainly, of course, to be sure. In other contexts, should be straight up to, the quoting, the with as the quoting particle, or straight up with someone. Mo, the inclusive particle also even, but yeah, consider it here as the combined particle with the meaning, of course, and so on. So yeah, the expression here sounds good because of that. Sure thing. Then he says, sa kitamae sabu oji. Sa again, come now once more. I shouldn't find it in the dictionary as is. Yeah, no, found. I find other words. It's a compound verb technically, kitamae. The ki is actually from kuru, to come. The other completely irregular verb, so we have to remember that it's continuative form is ki. In this case, required to add the second verb part of the compound. Tamau. Tamau is an honorific, more specifically respectful verb with two meanings. One, which is on its own, to give. The other one, when used after the mass stem of a verb, so the continuative form of a verb, to do the action of the verb. But of course, technically becomes an honorific or respectful language. Yeah. But, well, tamau, I mean, by the way, check its accent on its own. Okay, no, actually accented. Tamau. Tamau. U verb go and verb, so we can change the U into E to make the imperative form of the verb in plain speech. So yeah, I noticed that we are technically still speaking in plain speech. So not typical for these honorific verbs. Because yeah, these two know each other quite well, as we have seen, mentioned in the story. We still use technically this honorific verb. In this case, I'd say could be because it is still a prince that's talking, so could be for that reason. But yeah, we are still in plain speech because of the relation of these two, and we have the imperative. And then after that, simply the name of our protagonist. So yeah, come now. Yeah, literally come. We have the verb kuru. Now, Prince Sabu. Okay, I don't remember if I've studied this kanji, so I'll get that. Ikuzo. I will check at least this. Yeah, we have the verb iku, to go, unaccented. And yeah, then last but not least, as the final sentence particle, zo, which we have seen male term or language. This one adds force, emphasis, could say also technically, yeah, technically force, or indicates command, but yeah, in this case, force. Then we have that kind of like tilde because of the up and down, longer, but also up and down of the voice. Ikuzo. You might have heard it in anime or games. Then also the small su, because technically after that there's the abrupt end after that. It's a glottal stop technically. And the exclamation marks. And yeah, we get this taste here of the combat. And by the way, yeah, we lost 2 hearts, therefore none. But yeah, so we have this, which I'd say at this point we'll check out next time. Technically, we're right at the start of the game. I wouldn't strictly need to do this. I doubt it saved the game as is, so I saved the state. But yeah, I'd say we can end it here after seeing that we're losing. But yeah, we'll continue next time. Because the game. And yes, so today we have started this new series, this new game, Kaeru no Tameni Kane wa Naru. First and foremost, we studied the kanji in the title. That took us a lot of time, but yeah, then we checked out the box art, the title itself, more in detail. We have seen the story, but we have to check it out next time fully, because we have more kanji to study. Didn't expect all those, but we'll study them. But yeah, then we barely started the game, and we have this scene for now where the two princes are fighting. Yeah, they are rivals, as already mentioned. And yeah, we have seen the exchange between the two before. Then we saved there with the save state with the interruption that as an anticipation explained kind of a narrator what that place is. Yeah, we'll see that next time. Which should be, unless plans change, back on Wednesday as usual for this series, because on Monday and Friday we usually have Fire Red. That's so long that we need 2 episodes, and so we alternate it with this series. The other Let's Learn Japanese with series, currently this one. Of course, in between we also have we should have a stream on Sunday, mostly just for fun. I say most likely more Tomodachi Life, since we haven't played it this month yet. But yeah, so those are our plans. And yeah, next time for this series we have a lot of kanji to study. Technically the story to check, but and then to continue. But yeah, of course. Here we have at the very start of the game, and you have seen that there is more story to it, so it's actually quite interesting. And even more so since it's actually a game that hasn't come out outside of Japan. But yeah, those are our plans. And yeah, see you next time.